I've been thinking because I've been learning, I've been acquiring information, and I'm trying to process it. And something that somebody said in an interview, that something I heard was that in a relationship, fighting doesn't it's not doesn't really mean that it goes against happiness. Actually, fighting could connect you with your partner at a much deeper level because it allows for vulnerability and for raw honesty, and that allows for bigger connection. And maybe it wasn't this, maybe these words weren't the one that he said or exactly what he meant, but that's how I took it. And the reason why I took it that way is because, to me, fighting has always been very painful. I internalize fighting as a place where I will disassociate and I will try to escape from, and I wouldn't see that. I will see as separation, and I'm talking about this in my early childhood, right? So I was afraid of it. And when he said that actually couples that fight can actually be pretty happy, like, that made no sense in my head. Like, that just made no sense, but at the same time it made all the sense in the world, and it blew my mind, and it made me change a different ways of thinking. Obviously, let's not go to extremes. Fighting doesn't have to be abusiveness, and again, what's abusiveness? You know, like, we have to, like, be very clear with certain things, right? Let's not go to extremes. And that's the whole point of this video, is that I realized that it's not black and white, or it should not be black and white, that there is so much gray area in between. And maybe that's what a relationship is about, you know, like finding that balance. Like, it will never be all la la la, and it doesn't have to be horrible experience either. That is just like, you know, like happiness. You can find happiness in the middle. You can find happiness in moments where you're never gonna be 100% in the middle. There are gonna be imbalances, but that's okay. You know, like, it's okay, it's normal. Like, it's an ever finding balance, because we're ever expanding and we're ever experiencing. So some days you're gonna be in a really good mood, and some days you're just not gonna be in a good mood because maybe you learned something that blew your mind, and you're like, oh my god, how am I gonna fix this? And or like incorporate this with my belief system, and that's, you know, like, altering you in some way. And, you know, maybe relationships are not meant to be like we're all lovey-dovey, like everything is fine and neutral. I mean, ideally, right? Ideally you will find your balance, but maybe it is the factor that helps you find your balance more than the relationship is the balance itself, you know? Maybe the relationship doesn't have to be balanced for it to be a good relationship or a happy relationship. Maybe it's just something that, if you are feeling sad, like really unbalanced, really sad, maybe the relationship can pull you towards a more neutral stage. And if you're like overjoyed about something and you're like going to the other side, which great for a little, but not the whole time, because then you become like whatever, then your relationship will ground you a bit. And that's the balance, that's the beauty of the relationships. And I'm not just talking about love relationships, I'm talking about all relationships. But yeah, I've been thinking about it in the framework of love relationships. And so if you're being like me, thinking about relationships, being afraid of fights, being afraid of these things, maybe it's not that bad. Obviously, we're not talking about extremes here. We're not talking about fighting where there is a complete disregard of you and like hitting, or like you know what I mean, a completely unbalanced situation. But maybe it's helping you somehow. Like that's gonna be my question. Like, how is this fight, this contrast, is helping me? Like, what is it showing me about myself and about my partner, about my relationship? Like, where am I going? Where is my balance? How can I reclaim my balance? How is this helping me be more balanced? And how can I connect with that person in moments, deep, intense moments like this, of either happiness or like really uncomfortable moments with my partner? What is our truth at this moment? What truths are coming out? And I find that is beautiful. It's so beautiful to think about it that way, because I'm gonna say my husband is a Pisces and I'm a Virgo. I love astrology, and I was always very conflicted sometimes with how my husband can see things in a very universal way, and like it's blurry, lines get blurry of what's right, what's wrong. Like, he understands a lot of things that to me is like my moral Virgo, my Puritan Virgo is like, no, that's not correct, that's not right, that's not how it's supposed to be, that's not what society accepts, that's not. And I feel like he can stand in the universe and feel himself floating on the ocean, or just floating in the air, whatever, and being aware of the reality of it all, the good, the bad, the ugly, the pretty. And at the same time, if you do that, it gets a little lonely, it gets a little scary, maybe even, because you're boundless. And being it all can feel lonely and can feel like empty. While I'm hyper focused, right? Virgo hyper focuses on one dot, one aspect. So I picture myself as standing, like grounded, right? Standing on a rock, and knowing that that's me, and like being focused on that rock and being like, that's my point, that's the center, that's where I am at. And if I just focus on that moment, on that rock, on the specific things about it, I completely forget that I am standing in a rock in the middle of the universe, right? And if he's just like floating around in the universe and he doesn't have a place to ground himself, then he's just gonna like forget about his individuality and the fact that he exists within this reality. And I'm not just talking about him and I. He's not just like that, and I'm not just like that. But that's what I'm thinking about Pisces and Virgos right now. And I think it's beautiful to have somebody floating in the space holding your hand as you stand in that rock, and you are being able to grab that person's hand and say, yes, you're in the space, but you're holding my hand, and I'm standing in this rock, and this is where you are. And he telling me, as he's grabbing my hand, saying, yes, you're standing in that rock, you are sitting in this particular point, yes, there is your physical body, but we are in the middle of the universe, and we are one with it all. that balance, that connection, that holding of hands that reminds us of both sides. I find that so beautiful. And yeah, I just wanted to share it. Hope you liked it, and hope it gives you some insights. Bye.